everybody. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to manage complexity of this topic and keep it really simple. I've only got a few slides, and I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and hopefully answer questions. But my goal is to explore how and why DAOs connect, collaborate, and coordinate across dimensions of creative communities. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll talk through coordination. So this would be my approach to visualizing multi-DAOmensional governance using a simple two-dimensional coordinate plane. So if you look at the y-axis and the x-axis, they might represent two DAOs. And the value would represent success as a general metric, which we all think about in organizations, right? And it's a very common question. How do you measure success? How do you measure impact? Well, we're going to extract those questions for now. Metric. And when you're talking about coordination of DAOs, you might have to create this coordinate plane representing success for each DAO. And the tricky part is making each unit equivalent or equal, if you will. So the one box is the same, it's a square. It's a, one as a coordinate would be exactly equal to what you might expect. And this way, to visualize multi-dimensional coordination paints a picture of how it's really oversimplified all the time. So even with such a useful tool as the coordinate plane, we miss all of the other dimensions, and we haven't even delved into what success means for each independent DAO. So this is my best attempt at simplifying what it means to establish common value systems for alignment between DAOs as they cooperate or collaborate. So you don't want to have results end up in the negative quadrant, number 3, at the bottom left. And you really want the top right to be the outcome. Obviously, you don't want it to be a negative for either in the win-lose or the lose-win scenarios in the other quadrants. But that's kind of the goal when you're thinking about DAO-to-DAO coordination, is you want to create positive impact on both DAOs and ideally make more impact as a result of this gestalt effect. It's the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. So next slide is probably a little bit more accessible. You could think about the overall DAO ecosystem as a singular thing, but I love pluralization. So really it's about singular DAO ecosystems, which are plural. So that's a funny little paradox, which might be useful from a topological standpoint, but really it's about building connections in and across these universal communities. You might say there is an Ethereum community, and I work at Near Foundation, so I would say there is a Near community. But really, we're building connections within and across those universal communities to create a multiverse of DAOs, or a ecosystem of DAOs. And the question is, do we really want ecosystem DAOs or an ecosystems DAO? I think actually it's more about ecosystems DAOs, which is really weird, but that's the funny little paradox I'm to lead into my next, which is an example of multi-DAO governance. So we have this DAO on Astro, the main DAO platform that runs on Near, and it enables multi-DAO governance in a really cool way. So this Creatives DAO emerged from the Base project, which started a community around creativity on a blockchain, namely the Near protocol. So that started an off-chain community over a year ago, which led to the Creatives DAO starting last year. And from that Creatives DAO emerged various creative DAOs, plural. And so now the overall creative multi-DAO is governed by various creative DAOs, which you see here. And this is just 6 of them. There's actually 14. but didn't fit into the screenshot and the slide. But just wanted to give a basic example of multi-DAO governance. All it means would be multiple DAOs voting on proposals in a DAO. So if you go to this QR code, you will be taken to the Astro platform. It's a different DAO linked here, but it's an experimental DAO we call the Community DAO. We're doing some fun experiments this week. So if you're interested to play around with Astro, that's a link to take you straight to the platform. But yeah, that's my basic example of multi-DAO governance happening already. If you're really interested to learn more, Chloe Lewis, or AKA Chloe the Dev, is giving a presentation Thursday at the Near Lounge about multi-DAO governance from a position of greater experience as a leader in the multi-DAO presented here. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thursday afternoon at the Near Lounge right across the street from the Sports Castle, a block away. But the next slide goes into a more general example of a DAO, which is multi-DAOmensional. You know, we're using the term governance as a way to identify explorers who are doing research about DAOs, about governance. So this experimental cross-chain multi-DAO research group or initiative comprising research groups and projects is all about learning together. And it really, accentuates that idea of multi-DAO governance because we are trying to achieve common goals about DAO research. We have these various topics to explore, questions to answer, problems to solve, actions to take or do. And I'd love to share more about it. We have assemblage on Thursday, right after Chloe's talk about multi-DAO governance. And our main objective for that experience will be to gather questions, problems, ideas, really anything pertaining to DAO research and, further inquiry and experimentation required to better understand not only multi-DAO governance, but governance in general, and thinking about how we can take this to the next level. So that's my pitch for Governance. If you're interested, you can join our Telegram. And we're actively recruiting co-researchers. So part of the goal is to build a research DAO. And that research DAO will help us better understand research DAOs. And the best way to do that is through multiple research DAOs coordinating. And we have an experimental DAO for that purpose on Astro. And I'll be glad to share more about it after this. But that is my presentation. If you want to learn more about any of this, you can talk to me afterward. You can go to near.org to learn about Near, astrodao.com to learn about Astro, and you can check out the Token Engineering Commons and the Token Engineering Academy to learn more about what they're doing in the context of governance. And with that, I really just want to say thank you for all you're doing in the DAO ecosystems. And hopefully we can build connections together and really explore the furthest reaches of our multi-dimensional universe. So thanks again, and I'll take questions if we have time, but really excited for this week of creativity and hope to speak with you soon. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah, so that Creatives DAO is probably the best example I know because it's a large number of DAOs coordinating and each of them has one vote in another multi-DAO structure. So that's a really cool example. I actually think partnership DAOs are another cool example because it's not about getting so many DAOs involved. You could have a multi-DAO that just involves 2 DAOs and they vote in each other's DAOs, or they actually have a combined DAO where they're making decisions about a shared resource. So that's another cool one. We had a a contest between two projects in our ecosystem, Croncat and Cheddar. Croncat is a system for automating any kind of actions happening on Near, and Cheddar is a DeFi staking protocol. And they did a meme contest and voted on the winners together. So all of these Cheddar Cats memes were voted on by each community, and that was a way to balance powers. If I had to boil it down to one reason why multi-DAO, it's about the balance of powers. Because if you have one DAO to rule them all, or the DAO, it's actually not reflecting truth or actual complexity of the organizations, plural, which make up that emergent structures and processes.
Anyone else have questions? I'm going to walk around with the mic. No? Well, I have one question.
All right.
In all of these DAOs that are being created right now, there are a lot of overlapping skill sets, and a lot of guilds are being created. But folks that, let's say you're a developer, or you're a creative, or you're a finance guy, you may be part of many different DAOs that are focused on different interests that you may have. But would it make more sense if there were collective guilds that all developers maybe were part of, or all creatives were part of, or congregated that way? Because, and those could be multi-DAOs, but like many-to-many sort of multi-DAO relationships. Do you see that as possible?
Yeah, so I guess the name itself has a lot of impact on the day-to-day or like the activities of a DAO or a guild. So if you are the developer DAO or the design guild, you might think, oh, well, I'm going to get all of the designers in the world and we're all going to be working together happily. I think that is unrealistic because you have certain goal, or you have this overarching purpose of design, but really there's two kinds of roles, oversimplification, but you have coordination and then you have the contributions. So there's going to be a need for coordination that introduces a competitive aspect. So there might be multiple DAOs recruiting developers and multiple guilds recruiting designers because they want to be that one developer DAO or the one design guild to rule them all, so to speak. And I think that where it's going would be acknowledging the complexity of such attempts, not taking away from the remarkable efforts and remarkable work to recruit great contributors and drive adoption, but rather acknowledging that it is multiple organizations coordinating, and there is a balance between these different aspects, not just collaboration and cooperation, but also competition. And I think it's possible to envision the one DAO to rule them all, but it doesn't happen without multi-DAO governance. And I think what I'm trying to say is multi-DAO governance is the DAO to rule them all. And it's more about, doing valuable work than, getting people into the DAO. So if you're just thinking about getting everyone into one place, the question is why? And if it's just to get everyone in one place, it's already off to the
Well, I think
direction.
the answer is you want everybody in one place so that you don't have a duplication of efforts. I feel like many of us right now in this space are working on the same things, but separately. And competition is good, but when the field is so spread out and so distributed, you don't necessarily get the best practices bubbling up to the top.
Well, that's part of the goal for Governance, is to bring multiple DAOs together so we can learn and avoid the duplication of efforts, but also the duplication of mistakes, and really just going down the same paths of plutocratic token-weighted voting systems, for example, or prioritizing strategy over culture. All kinds of learnings that we've had not only since DAOs were a thing, but since governance was a thing. And I think it's understated how DAOs connect via people. So you might have a developer who works with 5 developer DAOs, and that connection is what brings that multi-DAO together.
But it would seem like onboarding someone from Web 2 to Web 3 would be much easier if there was one place that, you know, all of the developers knew they could go.
That's the false, you know, like assumption. You're actually assuming that there will only be one because everyone agrees there should only be one, whereas in reality there will always be one.
More than one makes sense, but at what point does it not make sense? Meaning,
what I mean
if we have 5 or 10, you know, what is it really? Look, we can agree on certain things, we could disagree on certain things, and that may cause divides in the community. But ultimately, there shouldn't be 10 different opinions on, you know, what coding language to use or, you know, what stack to use.
Well, in the context of onboarding, you're talking about having one place, and one place is different than one DAO. So I get what you mean. Yes, if it's one place to send people and it's got all the DAOs, you know, great. But I think even in that higher level, you know, aggregation layer, there's going to be competition. We have, you know, various DAO stats providers and, you know, DAO insights that are coming from all kinds of sources. And I think that's kind of what drives the adoption, you know, the onboarding and recruitment is all informed by various organizations, and it's never one place. Although it would be nice, it's kind of a holy grail.
Well, do you know anyone that's working on potentially bringing multiple DAOs or merging DAOs together? If they're doing the same thing, if they're doing the same work. I mean, I probably in the last month spoke to 20 different people from different organizations, and they were all focused on regenerative finance. Great goal, but if they're all working disparately, then they're not really going to accomplish that goal anytime soon.
Yeah, the typical answer to that question is, oh, let's just start the mega regenerative finance DAO. And what I'm suggesting is the alternative would be coordinating as many or just a few, you know, regenerative finance DAOs. But, you know, the governance, we think about all DAOs together as an experiment. You know, we're doing action research together as the DAO ecosystem of ecosystems. And really that helps, you know, everyone understand DAOs better. And so that's the goal, is to eliminate that inefficiency by emphasizing the openness of this decentralized science movement and really supporting anyone who is exploring DAOs through collaboration.
That's awesome. So anyone who's interested in collaboration, please look into the governance.